Today I'm playing Wheel of Fortune for the NES, released by GameTek back in 1992. GameTek released a bunch of games for different systems over the years, and they had to run a game show to video game conversions, so they seem to be pretty heavy in that space. The NES had a total of 4 different Wheel of Fortune games released for it, and this is the version that says Wheel of Fortune starring Vanna White, which means we get a picture of her in the cartridge, and a digitized picture of her in the game itself, which turns out to be pretty haunting. Wheel of Fortune was released on countless systems, and on many of those systems you're probably going to find multiple versions, even if it's just updated questions, or maybe it's targeted at a family audience, or a kid audience. If there are less than 20 versions of this game floating out there, I would be surprised. I think Wheel of Fortune is one of those games that you should probably know what you're getting already. I mean, it's Wheel of Fortune, and the show's been going on for probably 50 years. You guess letters, and you use those to try to answer a puzzle. I imagine this might be different if you're from another country and you're seeing this for the first time, but even still, I think Wheel of Fortune exists in other geographies. I think this is a global thing. I think it's a pretty basic game overall, all things considered, so whether you're playing this version or a version on a different console, we're going to be playing the same Wheel of Fortune. That part of this never changes. Yeah, you're going to get different graphics and sound, and puzzles will be different, I'm sure, and probably the interface, now that I think about it, but the core gameplay, it's always going to be the same. Here, you can play up to 3 players, and if you play less than 3 players, the computer is going to fill in the other spots. Now, it's you being luckier and hopefully smarter than however smart they programmed the computer to be, which sometimes doesn't seem to be too smart. We have different levels of difficulty we can select. They give you 3. I usually go the middle is where I usually start with most of these. You put in your name here, and you choose an avatar to play. You don't have a lot of characters to type in a name, but whatever, it doesn't have a save either. Then you get to choose an avatar. You get a handful of cartoonish creations that you'd really expect from an 8-bit game of this era. We got big heads, we got small eyes, and strange facial expressions. We also have these awkward hands clapping when you spin the wheel. As you would imagine, these animations are minor at best. Now you spin the wheel, and hopefully you manage to land on good money, and then you guess a proper letter, hopefully. You need to press the A button to forward through the different parts of the game. You press it to start your turn, you press it to spin, you press it to make letter entries. The one thing I did notice, though, when you press A to start your turn clapping, if you don't press A again to spin, you're just going to keep clapping. It's an odd little thing in this game, I think. And there seems to be no real timer to stop this from happening, and you can just wait and clap forever. So, nice. In terms of Wheel of Fortune as a game itself, I've always thought that the random element was a bit of a bummer. Because ultimately, parts of this game are less about skill, and you could totally have the answer for the puzzle and you just never get a chance to use it, as a result of the luck of the people before you. Granted, as the rounds progress, the person who spins first for that round does rotate, so yeah, I guess there's a fairness when we're talking about balancing that randomness, but it always seemed to be a little bit of a burden to me. I think the coolest thing about playing a game like this, though, is the era that it came from. All the puzzles in this game are from the late 80s and early 90s. I was in elementary and high school during this period, and seeing some of these questions even catch me off guard. I ran into a puzzle not too far into a game. The answer turned out to be Eddie Money. He was a popular musician in the 80s, but I think nowadays many people would be hard-pressed to recognize him today. And that is the problem with 30-year-old trivia. It's like playing an original version of Trivial Pursuit from back in the day. You probably should be at least aware of the era of the questions of the game you're playing, because that is going to determine your success. I also think the goofy character avatars are pretty amusing, and it's one of those games that you can really just pop in and play a quick game and be satisfied. I can anyway, and I really enjoyed this experience. It's simple. I like this one. It isn't a brain-dead experience, mind you, but I'm not struggling with the controls to try to make it to the next level. There's no frustration here. It's simple enough, and not something you have to dedicate massive amounts of time to figure out. In comparison, I've been slowly chipping away at Starfield for over a month. That is complex and involved. Wheel of Fortune, I can pop in and play in 5 minutes. I can